Welcome to episode 25 of Created by Design. Today, I've invited my sister Donna James to join me and bring some of her really unique crochet projects, all concentrating on throw or afghan, whatever you want to call it, and some very unique pieces, and I think you'll enjoy seeing her work and her creativity. So Donna, thanks for coming. She actually has moved over on my side of town now, so we're not very far away from each other, maybe about 1.5 miles to 2 miles. So it's kind of fun to be able to get together and maybe work on some projects, get into trouble together, and we'll see what the future holds. But today we're showing one of her projects, and you completed this last year during this was a COVID project, right? And this is very, very unique. I hope the camera can pick up. I will be taking some close-ups and posting it so you can see it up close. It has a lot of texture to it, bobbles, it's got some beading on it, certainly a lot of color changes. And who's the designer of this?
Jane Crowfoot.
Jane Crowfoot. And how did you come by this? Where did you see it? What inspired you to do it?
You were watching Fruity Knitting, and it was done on Fruity Knitting, and so I saw it, and then I thought, gee, that would be fun to do.
Had you ever done something quite like this before?
No.
Okay.
No.
Because you've done a lot of crochet, but it's been a finer gauged thread.
Right.
And some beautiful things over the years. But this, I could see where this would be uniquely different. What part about it did you enjoy? Did you learn things? Tell us a little bit about your experience.
I learned a lot from this. First of all, I learned about using different textures and fabric, yarn combinations.
So these are not all the same weight yarns.
No,
there's different weights.
They are not. They are different weights. They're different fibers in them. And I probably went to 10 at least different companies to buy the yarn for this.
She had in the book.
She had in the book. And so I was able to find all of them but one, and that was this kind of cream colored one, and I had a substitute for it.
Because that actually was discontinued, that particular yarn.
Yes.
And she originally, you said, made this in a kit, but was no longer available.
The kit was no longer available. And this yarn, even though it was a substitute, it still had the same fiber content.
Okay.
And so then I knew it would react in the afghan like hers did.
Well, it's really beautiful, and I think because it has so many different stitches in it, obviously different textures in it, it's just very unusual, and I would think it would keep you challenged while you were making it. That's really cool.
It was. And it was really fun to do, and I liked her technique for putting all of these together.
Okay.
Because you crocheted them with a single crochet together.
Rather than
sewing them or slip stitching.
Okay. Okay.
And so I really like that, and I will use that technique if I do something like that again.
Right. Well, it's quite beautiful. I don't crochet. I know how to do a chain stitch, but it just always boggled my mind. Knitting I can do, but the crochet, so I'm impressed. Our mother crocheted, and she crocheted some big tablecloths, really fine work.
She did all thread crochet.
Yeah.
She didn't do any yarn.
Right.
And then our grandmother, our dad's mother, crocheted, and she didn't do yarn either. She did all fine
and
thread.
Mostly doilies and that kind of thing. Okay. Well, you've brought another project, and I love this one too. So after you got this one done, where did you find this?
I found this in a Mary Maxim catalog, and they still carry this.
Okay.
And it comes as a kit. It's the same designer.
Okay.
It's Jane Crowfoot again. And I really like this. It's totally different than the other one because this is all flat. There's no, there's a little bit of texture in it, but it's pretty much flat crochet.
But a lot of different stitches
Oh
too.
yes,
And
a
lots
lot
of
of
color
different
change.
stitches and color combinations.
Yeah.
And so there's two basic patterns, the square and the hexagon.
This is kind of like a little bit like a granny square.
Yes, yes. But yet there are multiple color combinations in
And
it.
then the little cross here of it looks like a single crochet that's worked in of some
It's
kind.
actually a treble crochet
Okay.
that
Okay.
you do down the row a couple rows before.
And so this, in some ways, because there is more repetitiveness in this, would you say it was a little bit easier than that one?
Oh, definitely easier.
So this
Yeah.
one could, would you say a beginner could do this one, or would you need to be at least
Possibly.
intermediate?
You would be more intermediate to do this the way it's done, just because there's some different little stitches that you do slightly different in it. So
On this one here, the level of experience, where would you say
it
it's
would be very experienced.
more experience? For sure.
But this, you could, on this one, start out with some lesser experience, because the way she does this is you do the simple single crochets first, then you move to some of these areas, and then you do this
So you kind of
complicated
build.
one in
Yeah.
the last.
I think that's what Andrea on Fruity Knitting said, because I don't think
Yes.
she really had crocheted very much.
No.
And felt like it did kind of teach you as you
Yes,
went. But
it
you would have
does.
to want to advance.
And you need the book to do that.
that.
You know, because she also does some YouTube tutorials
Okay.
on pieces of this.
Okay.
Now, I looked at a couple of tutorials, but I didn't really gain me personally gain anything from them, because I had done most of these stitches before.
Well, I'm going to insert some detailed pictures of these and the pattern so people can know. And where did you order it? This
Mary
pattern was
Maxim.
in the same book as that one?
No. This pattern was from Mary Maxim in a kit,
Okay.
and so I ordered that.
Okay.
And
Well,
that's
I'll
where I
post
saw
that
it.
detail.
And it comes in, I think, 3 different color combinations.
Okay.
So,
So would this be something, though, that someone could get the pattern and maybe choose their own yarns
they could.
easily?
They could.
Okay.
They could.
Yeah, it's very unique. It's beautiful. It feels nice. So what was the yarn that's in here? Is it a blend? Is it acrylic?
can't remember. I think it's acrylic.
Okay.
It's a non-pilling
Okay.
acrylic.
So even a washable wool would work for something
Sure.
like this. You would
And
certainly
it's-
want it washable.
And it's a DK weight.
Okay.
So,
Well, I think it's gorgeous, and I could see where other color combinations could make it just really look
oh yeah, you
totally
could.
different. So now you're going to show us a project that you're working on, and kind of tell us about your experience with it. It started out as one project, and then you changed up and took it all out and started all over again. So tell us a little bit about that process. First of all, where did you
A
get?
friend sent me this.
Okay, I'm gonna hold it
And
up. I'll actually
I think
take some
I
pictures.
don't know for sure. I think she saw it on Ravelry,
Okay.
and so I went to Ravelry, and this is a free design from Ravelry,
Okay.
and it's designed to do a shawl in a triangle.
Okay.
And I thought, oh, that's kind of neat. But then I got to crocheting on it, And I thought, I'm never going to use this as a shawl. It's way too heavy for what I would use.
But you had quite a bit of it, a good sized triangle done.
Yes, and you'll insert a picture of that triangle that because I did copy the original triangle or took a picture of it. And then I decided I really liked the technique, and some of it was similar to what's in here.
Okay.
And particularly this and some of these other rows, and I really liked that. And so I thought, why can't I do this in a square?
Oh, okay.
And so I looked at the pattern and I thought, yeah, the ends, she finishes the ends a little different than you would do a corner. But there is a corner.
Okay.
And so I took the corner and I adapted, like half of the corner was your starting point. And so then you just repeated those corners all the way around and you could do a square.
Then you ended up with a square.
And so that's what I did with this, and this is how far I've gotten so far.
And I'll do close-ups of this because this is a lot of different stitches. So there's texture to it, not as much texture as that one back there, but not completely flat either.
Right, and because you've got this popcorn stitch, you've got some front post,
right,
or back post.
I'm going to hang it up, hold it up here as a triangle. So the shawl
would have been
like this, but of course it would have kept going to be a lot bigger. But you had maybe not quite as much of this done, but close
to that
when you decided to tear it all out.
Right. Okay. And I thought this is a good way to use up leftover yarn.
Oh, terrific.
And so as long as it's approximately the same weight, this is easy to maybe change a needle crochet hook to a smaller or larger hook if it draws up or makes it too ruffly.
Depending upon the weight of the fiber, you would adjust your needle.
And so, but it's basically DK weight.
Okay.
But it's got all different kinds of fibers in it.
Well, and so many different kinds of stitches, and as the colors change, like this is the same stitch as this, but it's a different color combination. So it really gives it looks very different.
And the thing that you want to do on this is, if you're going to really get the feel of the different textures, is you want to have enough contrast to the thread that you use in between those for it to stand out.
Oh, that makes sense.
So
that's a good hint.
This panel section in here is just double and single crochets. And so
this is the same stitching here as this is here, but because this is a variegated yarn, the look.
Well, and this isn't a variegated yarn,
but it has a different repeat to it. Yes,
it does.
So it looks totally different, even stitch wise. And then here is really where you've done gone into the lavender tones,
and that's all part of the
same yarn.
Yeah.
Well, it's really unique, and you'll just keep going around
until I get it as big as I want
as you want it to be.
And so it's really a lot of fun to do. The other thing that I was concerned about, when you do a triangle, you're crocheting one row on the front and one row on the back.
Oh.
And with a square, you're not. You're crocheting all the way around on the front. And the only point there, or the only stitch that I had to change, was in some places they have a front post crochet and some places they have a back post crochet. And so I just did all the same.
Okay.
I think these
no one would ever know.
No. Yeah. These are all back post crochets, and otherwise it didn't really change the look of it at all.
And the back looks very attractive also. So it's even though it's flat, it still has a nice look to it. I think this is great. I love the fact that you can just add colors to it. And in fact, you asked me for some, if I had odds and ends that she could work into it. So if you add another color, you just would want to make sure you probably had enough to go all the way
around
in the one pattern.
Yes, in these rows here, you want enough to go all the way around. In these rows here,
You wouldn't have to.
You wouldn't have to.
Right.
You could do some scraps and
Sure,
just
because here's a real strong color change right here into the pinks and the golds. Was that all in the same?
That's all in the same.
So it was a variegated ball. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah. So, but if you were doing that by just picking up a new color, it would be totally fine too.
So if you have short pieces that aren't enough to go all the way around the outside, you could use them in here.
Save there for there. Well, this is terrific, and it's really actually quite beautiful. You wouldn't believe that it's just kind of made out of leftovers.
It is, and it's really interesting when you put these colors together in these sections, how it really stands out. And I think that I'm going to try and do this popcorn row in the light color. Consistently.
Yes, I could see where
And
that
even
would.
if I have to buy some more yarn to do that.
Well, it brings a kind of one piece in it that there's a continuity to. So I could see where that. Because if you got it too muddled, you could kind of lose the effect for sure. That's a good thing to think about.
Puts it in sections all the way.
That's really cool. And as I mentioned, there's a number of different stitches. I just don't hardly know names of crochet stitches. Ask me for wool or for knitting stitches, I can talk about that. But Donna's brought a couple of pieces to do a little demonstration on here, and we're going to readjust the camera. And
there's a double crochet, a single crochet, a popcorn stitch, and a front or back post double crochet.
Okay.
That's the only stitches that are used in this.
Well, I'm going to change the camera, and we're going to give some close-ups on those, and then she's going to do some demonstration here for us. So there'll be a little bleep in the video, and we'll be right back. So first of all, Donna, let's point out some specific stitches. Like for instance, what this here is called.
This is called a popcorn stitch.
Okay, and I'm going to help hold it up close here.
You can see, and you do 4 double crochets in the same spot, and then you just put a loop on your hook and fasten them together in the back. So, and then you go to the next one. And popcorn stitch is a pretty common stitch in crochet, and so this is a popcorn stitch also. It's just done on a row. You can see this is the row, and so you go clear down to
You're going over more distance. So then what's this stitches in here?
Well, these are double crochets. This is a regular double crochet here. This one is a back post double crochet, and this is a back post double crochet.
Okay. What's another stitch in here that you would show us about or want to talk about?
They're just double crochet and single crochet.
So the rest just of it the changing of the yarn makes an incredible difference.
Yeah. And so this is a double crochet, this is a single crochet, this is a double crochet, a single crochet. You know, that's the combination here. And these are just a whole row of popcorn stitches, double crochet, popcorn stitch, double crochet.
Well, it's just amazing how the color change just makes it different.
And it does really, the colors really emphasize it.
Yeah, that's terrific.
So this stitch right here, which is a double crochet, is the same as this stitch in this row, but this is just done around what they call a back post double crochet instead of going in the whole stitch. You go behind it. So the top edge, here you can see the top edge of this is what shows here.
So is this up here the beginning of
one
this
of
here?
those.
Okay.
And this is a double crochet. And these double crochets are through the whole stitch.
Okay.
Like this, versus this row is a back post which goes behind it, and it lets those
That's amazing.
face the front like that.
Okay, well, that is very interesting. So now you're going to do a demonstration here. What stitch are you going to show us? I just pulled that off of the table for you.
Here, it's got a tangle around there. There.
I helped make a mess. There.
So, as what I'm going to show you first is a front post. And a front post is done where you go through the
over just a little bit.
Through the front. Actually, you're going from front to back. So I'm gonna let's take this out. So you're going around, you're going to do a double crochet, you're going through to the front, around the front of that whole post, and you're going to pick it up and crochet.
Oh, that looks so
and
easy.
You go through and do another
okay
back post. Now, this stitch is only done if you were doing a triangle, because you're doing it from the back.
On this particular
project. Okay, so now I'm going to switch and do a back post, which is what I'm doing on all of them for the
This is the part
square.
You changed up to make it be the square. Okay.
Yeah. So instead of doing a combination of front post and back post, I'm only doing back post, which you come through. You start the same way, but you go through the back and go around that post.
Well, look at that.
And you then that puts the top edge of your double crochets on the front, and makes that ridge. And so it's
nifty.
Really easy to do once you get the hang of it. And you have to be careful that you don't just go through the top like this.
Right, okay.
You actually have to go around the post.
Right, okay.
So you're getting that whole post in there. And that really forces this row to the front. And so then it becomes closer together.
Right, really makes a nice ridge there. And it gives it a good texture.
It does.
Interesting.
And so that's basically what I've done. If you get this pattern, you can get it on Ravelry. Linda will put the address of it on there. But with it comes a demonstration pictures of those stitches. And so this is a front post treble crochet, and it shows you're going from the front around the back. And then this one page shows a back post where you're going around the back.
Looks like they've given you good demonstration.
And they have.
That's a nice
pattern.
pattern.
They've given you really good demonstration. And so it's a lot of fun to do this, and I'm enjoying the color combinations. This is quite a different combination that I just did it for demonstration purposes, but I may do that in
one of the sections.
In one of the sections, because then your next row, so you're going to end up with three
ridges.
tops, three ridges in there.
Yeah, I like that.
So,
well, I think that even in the knitting, I find I love working with color just to see what it does, and you really can't tell. Like when yarn is sitting out here like this by itself, it's hard to get a real concept of what that's going to look like until you really get it into a project and see what the eye does with it. And that's kind of fun. Once in a while I've had to take something out that I've said, oh, I don't think I like that combination, but this, you wouldn't think necessarily of putting that together, but in there like that, it's quite attractive.
Well, and these are different, actually 4 different combination of content in the yarn fibers.
Interesting.
Yeah. And see, this is a cotton, and these are, some of these are acrylic. This has got something else in it. I don't remember what.
Because if you ever have to wash this, you're going to rinse it out and lay it out. You're going to wash it by hand.
Yeah.
So having some different content in there is okay. You just would never put like an all silk thread or something. That would be
probably
silly.
not.
Yeah. If it could have some silk in it, maybe a blend, and you would still be okay.
Right.
But
you'll notice all of the yarn, when you look at it, it looks like it's the same weight.
Right.
And so it's all the DK weight. And so, and it may be called something else besides DK, as long as it is approximately the same size.
DK or sport, that, you can just kind of tell, like you say, by looking and feeling, and so you can easily use some leftover pieces.
Sure. Or if you had some stocking weight, you could conceivably use 2
fingerling weight,
or
2 together,
lace weight. Sure. You could put.
Well, and it really wouldn't hurt if you had one whole band around it that was maybe as long as it was all one full complete circle or band, that it was all the same. You could fudge a little bit on the weight, maybe one row being a little heavier or something.
And at that point, you would use a different size
needle,
crochet hook.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And most of this that I am doing right now, this is a I'm trying to read it. It's a G. I think it's 3.25.
Okay.
And that's kind of my basic hook. And then I have not used any smaller, but I have gone an F hook on some of it.
Okay. So is this a project that you can kind of pick up and put down, work on other stuff, and you don't have to be just married to it in order
that's right.
to get it done. So it's kind of nice to have a project like that going, that if you're tired of working on everything else, you got a steady eddy to go back to, and just kind of, it's not mindless, but there's a lot of repeating of similar stitches. So from that perspective, it doesn't require you following the pattern super close.
No.
Once you get it memorized in your brain.
And it's something that you could almost work on without looking at your pattern.
Sure.
Because you can just look at that section in the rows below and know what you need to do.
Well, that's terrific. Thank you for bringing it. Thank you for showing. Anything else you want to say about it before we close this camera off? And
it's a fun project.
Yeah, and I think very, very attractive, and I love the idea that you can use leftover yarn, or you could get bits and pieces of yarn at Goodwill, so it doesn't have to be a costly, but once it's made into the project, this looks spiffy. It looks expensive, and yet you could make it up with some inexpensive yarn, and it, because of the textures and how it all comes together, it doesn't look inexpensive at all.
It's kind of like the crazy quilt of crochet.
There you go. There you go. Very good. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode all on crocheting, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. And if you liked this segment, please hit like, share it with your friends, and watch for episode 26 to be out in another week or so. Thanks. Bye now.
3. Oh, don't go down here yet. I want to fix it. There. And this one too.